Hello everyone and welcome to another News Coolum video. We're here at the rest stop using a BTC Power L3R, the big rectangular box. Maybe that's what R stands for. Bjorn Nyland finally got around to doing a 1,000-kilometer test in the Ampera E, the European Chevrolet Bolt EV. Now, it was showing something like only 53 kilowatt hours of usable capacity. He was saying it took him 7 hours, and he said to go 500 kilometers, a little over 300 miles. And that's a ridiculous number to me, and I don't know how that's possible. And the reason I say that is that's a slower average driving speed, including stops, than I used to do in my 2017 Bolt EV when I was relying solely on 45 kilowatt chargers. And so far, I haven't done a lot with this 2022 Bolt EV, but I've tested it a decent amount. It makes me want to maybe showcase again the difference, right, between what Bolt EV owners with aging packs will see versus, because this is the same pack that will be put into all previous model Bolt EVs. So whatever this car can do is similar to what all of the aging Bolt EVs should be able to do after their pack has been replaced. I've already done a 2020 Chevrolet Bolt EV 1,000-kilometer run. That one was a premier model, so less efficient. And I went up to Beaver, Utah from Baker, California, so your massive elevation changes. 75, 80 mile an hour freeway the entire time. Once you got over 4,000 feet, it was freezing. The chargers, most of them were Walmart chargers, not ideally located. You have to drive a decent way off the freeway to get to them. So, the outlets in Las Vegas. So there was a lot of things going against the Bolt EV, and I still managed to do 621 miles in 11 hours and 45 minutes, which makes sense, right? I did over 600 miles, about 610 miles driving with Alex Venz out to Vegas and back, and even using 45 kilowatt chargers and poorly spaced chargers in my 2017 Bolt EV, still, only about 2.5 hours of charging. All right, well, unfortunately, it looks like the charger died. I'm going to try to see if I can do something to sort of toggle this to reset the energy screen. We were close to full, not 100%, but like 90, probably 97, 98% full. Let's see if I can actually clear this out, because like I said, the charger seems to have finally had a fault. Could be something with communication with charging past a certain percentage, I don't know. But the car isn't reset yet, so I know it's not 100%, but no need to fret over it. We can, maybe shoot for starting this 1,000-kilometer, 620-mile run, 21.4-mile run in about 2 minutes. All right, well, unfortunately it didn't reset, but the cameras are set up, we're unplugged, and let's get ready to roll. It's a 10:45, or about. We made it here to our first stop in Firebaugh, Pinoche, Shell, whatever. This is right near where Tesla put in their big supercharger, just under 3 hours. So yeah, we're averaging about 70 miles an hour. We're already up to 25% charging. Well, actually, it doesn't even look like we're charging that quickly. Charging rather slow for the Bolt EV, and I'm guessing it's because of the charger itself. I moved to a different charger. This charger also seems to not be providing the power I think I have a limit for the number of chargers that I'm actually going to go to, though, on this site before I just pass on it. I've been here for 35 minutes already, and these speeds that we're charging at are slower than 125 amp 50 kilowatt charger. Like literally, if there were a 50 kilowatt tritium charger on the other side of the parking lot, it would be faster to move the car over and charge there. So I'm not even going to bother with it. Now, the Harris Ranch one, I just put it into PlugShare, put it into Maps. My phone isn't synced with the car right now, which is a problem, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it into Maps, press Start for navigation. Yeah, I'm not going to stop the charge until I'm ready to leave, but I'm ready to leave. We're here at Harris Ranch. You know, I realized that I probably could have stayed a little bit longer at Firebow and just went all the way to Lost Hills, which was originally where I was planning to go. We stopped here with like 26% battery is I think what they said we plugged in with. You know, this is a nice Signet charger. I think originally they were going to install BTC power, but now they decided, I guess, to install these newer Signet units. And it looks like, yeah, there are two 350 kilowatt units, but overall, it's a nice stop. But I wanted to reserve it for a northbound stop. I was planning to go down to Lost Hills and then return and come back this way, but I was also hoping to actually have a lunch, which was what that first stop was supposed to be. With the Bolt EV, and maybe this is, you know, kind of speaking to the disconnect for someone like Bjorn Nieland, is this car does not like to be skipped, right? So you look at that 621 mile 21.4 mile, the 1,000-kilometer challenge, and we did a third of it on one battery, right? And not even from 100%. We did more than a third of that trip in just one leg. And this car likes to take its time charging. And it's just like when people will cut this car off once it dips below 50 kilowatt. Well, it has a charge taper, but the other thing is, and this is what I've gotten after GM for, and I really want them to fix it, is they need to install a 200 amp charging socket, a CCS harness. Because even if you're not going to put that power into the battery, even if you want to hard lock the battery at 55 or 60 kilowatts below the cell specifications, you can still use that excess power from the charger to run battery conditioning, to run air conditioning. Each time you do an additional stop, what you introduce is an additional 5 minutes, right? So that's what I would try to avoid doing, is just, you know, increasing the number of stops, because all you're doing is adding a 5 minute getting off the freeway, a 5 minute getting onto the freeway. And now I sort of need to decide how I want to manage this stop, because once you get into that pattern of skipping, then it's kind of hard to break out of it. And over the course of 600 miles, like I said, you could easily add 20, 30 minutes to your trip by trying to skip chargers. All right, so we're already up to 50% battery. I'll have to check to see how long. I guess it's 3:17 now, so we're about 5.5 hours in. And then 250 miles. And see, again, this is why I said, like, I have an issue with what Bjorn was talking about taking 7 hours to go 300 miles. We're just 50 miles short of that right now. And we'll probably cover that distance in the next 30 to 40 minutes. And by that, I mean, yes, we're leaving. All right, well, we're back here at Harris Ranch. We had a fire on the freeway, and two guesses, and your first two guesses that it was an electric vehicle will be wrong. That added at least an hour. When I got to Lost Hills, the station was full. I'm sure some of those cars would have been leaving relatively soon, but I'm not certain. There was an ID4 driver just sitting in their car at 86%. So if they're still there just waiting around, chances are they're going to be there for quite a while longer. And I had enough energy to get back here, especially with the slowdown, because I saw that semi on fire while heading back down. According to their charger, I'm only charging at 28 kilowatts, which... yeah, like I said, I don't even know exactly. Let me see what the car says. All right, so it looks like I can't blame everything on Electrify America. It does look like the car might have been throttling its charge rate a little bit. Maybe the battery got too warm, getting down to about 3%. It's not ideal, and even at 8% battery, by this point, I would have liked to have seen this up to at least 50 kilowatt, or at least 40-something kilowatts. So GM might have changed something with the thermal management parameters of the battery, and if they did, I think it's a problem, because my Bolt EV, my 2017 Bolt EV would be charging at about 48 to 50 kilowatts right now, even with this type of driving in these conditions. So yeah, it's drawing about 6 kilowatts more. So yeah, the battery has to be cooked. I went ahead and moved chargers, and I'll say that if this is the norm for traveling with a 2022 Bolt EV, essentially basically the post-recall battery, maybe it's software, maybe it's something else, my 2017 Bolt EV right now might be able to road trip faster. And that's a real problem. This is not operating the same way that my 2017 Chevrolet Bolt EV operates, and it's not actually operating the same way as the 2020 Chevrolet Bolt EV that I reviewed. So I'm just going to button things up and get ready to go. Thank goodness for Walmart. I was able to get some dog food. One of the chargers was down, but there was a Mach-E here when I arrived, and another Mach-E showed up after I got here. So technically this charger was full for a while, because three chargers and 3 cars charging. But the good news is this almost immediately ramped up to well over the 125 amps that I was seeing at other Electrify America chargers. So I don't know, really who's to blame for that. We're bordering on 10 and a half hours right now. So even if you take away the hour of time for that traffic jam, which is about how much it cost, that puts us at about 9.5 hours to go 462 miles, which is still, like I said, it seems slower than the 2020. And the only thing that I can think is happening is this is a result of the software update that GM had done to enhance cold weather performance and also to protect the battery. So I don't know which did what, but I think there's a possibility that GM's software update actually did kind of mess around with the lower end cooling. Anyway, we're already past what I think I need to get to the next charger. The minimum the minimum range is already more, so we can just get on the freeway and jam at the 100 miles to the last charging stop. But anyway, I think someone's hungry. Sacramento International Airport, no problem. I was able to give the little boy some food and find one of the many chargers here open. Though this one BTC Power, these are the high power units. It sounds like a Star Wars Star Wars spaceship that's about to break down. The fan is going pretty loud off the side of it, but hey, it's functioning, it works. He had I guess there's a Tesla owner here checking it out, and as well as we had a Kona Electric here that stopped for a second. I don't know, maybe they're just hoping to wait here. This is one of my go-to spots, one that I typically use. Now, the thing that's interesting is, it just jumped right up to almost 150 amps, the high 40 kilowatt when I plugged in. So I'm still not 100% certain whether it's Electrify America or this car that was causing those slowdowns, because 4 different Electrify America chargers were only offering about 100 to 125 amps worth of power. And, so even when I moved one over, but I took like a sneak peek at some of the other cars that were charging, and like VW ID4 was charging at over 110 kilowatts. So the chargers themselves should have been able to dispense more than enough power. And the part of the reason I think it is the car is when I would turn on the AC to draw excess power from the charger, the charge rate of the Bolt EV's battery stayed the same, even though the draw on the charger increased. That's telling me that the charger itself wasn't the bottleneck. It is the Bolt EV. Yeah, I think there's definitely something that needs to be sorted out. The good news is I can guarantee you it's all software, because my 2017 Bolt EV that hasn't had that update yet doesn't work this way at all. My 5-year-old, 150,000 mile, 8% degraded Chevrolet Bolt EV running on inefficient tires should not be able to complete 621.4 miles faster than a 2020 Chevrolet Bolt EV with a full 66 kilowatt hour battery pack. Just shouldn't be possible. So, well, anyway, I'm going to charge up to about 50% battery here, only because I don't want to charge again, right? I timed it or mapped it out, hopefully, so that the rest area should be right around the 621 mile mark, but I'm probably just going to blow past that and then just note the time and share it with everyone, because all of those other delays just made this go much longer than it needed to. Okay, well, I'm coming to you from the future. So, not only did I get home all right from Sacramento International Airport, I was able to time or get the time for the that transition point over the 621.4 mile marker, or the 1,000 kilometer marker, and we hit it at just about midnight, but it was 12:10 is when the car suddenly turned into a pumpkin and the test ended. Now, the thing is, we started at 10:45 a.m., so that's 13 hours and 25 minutes of total time elapsed from when I left to when I crossed that 621.4 mile mark. And the thing is, what's interesting is this all happened to coincide very, very closely with Bjorn Nyland doing that Ampere E test. And I didn't know what his end results were. I just knew that he had been doing it or was doing it. And I thought this was a perfect time to also do the 2022. And interestingly enough, at least on the surface, right, the two numbers would seem to make sense, because 13 hours and 25 minutes for the 2022 Chevrolet Bolt EV, while he got 13 hours and 50 minutes with the Opel Ampera E. But that's where the problem is. Like, so that 13 hours and 25 minutes was including what was essentially a full 1 hour just dead stopped on the freeway because of a semi-truck basically catching on fire. And I actually ran the numbers. So the total charging time for this entire trip was 190 minutes, or 3 hours and 10 minutes. Well, 13 hours, 25 minutes minus 3 hours and 10 minutes. If you look at that average driving speed for 621.4 miles, that puts it at an uncorrected driving speed of 60.6 miles per hour. Now, that's not the time spent charging. That's when you're on the road driving. And for those of you who know California Interstate 5, if you're only averaging 60.6 miles per hour driving speed, not counting the time spent stopped, not counting the time spent charging, that is ridiculously low. 60.6 miles per hour, you're going to get run over by semis, right? So that's absolutely not an accurate number. And based on what I had tracked, the difference basically in time that it took to get from Harris Ranch to Lost Hills, and versus the amount of time that it took to get from Lost Hills back to Harris Ranch, there was about an hour delta. So that kind of confirms what Google Maps was saying. It kind of confirms all of my totals. And when I take an hour, so if I correct that 13 hours and 25 minutes total time down to 12 hours and 25 minutes, taking off for that accident in the standstill traffic, it shows a corrected driving speed, average driving speed of 67.2 miles per hour after I take away the time spent charging. And that's a much more accurate number. In the 2020 Chevrolet Bolt EV, when I did the 1,000 kilometer, 621.4 mile test. And in that test, I had averaged a little bit closer to 70 miles an hour average driving speed. So just slightly faster on the average driving speed. And the total time was 11 hours and 45 minutes, which is significantly faster. Now, it sounds like this either could have been a result of the battery recall, or it could have been a result of the charging software that they did to help with cold weather charging. But it appears that the Bolt EV does not cool the battery at all anymore when you're driving. If you're not plugged in, it's almost as though battery conditioning just doesn't exist. And that's a problem, because this is almost the opposite of Nissan's problem, right? Where Nissan, you'll get a great charge speed in your Nissan Leaf the first charge session on a long trip, and then everyone after that will just dog. I mean, I've literally seen Nissan Leafs charging at between 15 and 20 kilowatt on a 50 kilowatt charger because the battery was so cooked. And The Bolt EV, though, GM basically introduced the opposite problem, is you're going to show up to a charger and you're going to be charging at 20 to 30 kilowatts for your first charge session because the battery was just cooking the entire time that you were driving. And that's a problem, right? Because you're talking about at 20 to 30 kilowatts, it's taking 2 minutes almost to add a single percent to the battery. That means to go from 10% to 40% is going to take an hour. That is unacceptable, right? And it's taking that long for the conditioning to catch up also. And so I'm looking at these charging sessions. There is absolutely no reason why my average charging speeds should have improved and gotten better over the course of that drive. That's a serious problem. So we ended up doing about 215 miles in the first leg on 95% battery, right? So that was really good considering that's 70 to 75 mile an hour driving the entire way. And in fact, I looked at the clock and it was averaging about 70 miles an hour average driving speed. So we went 215 plus miles, not even on a full battery, at about 70 miles an hour on average. That's really good. But when you plug in and you're getting 20 to 30 kilowatts, that's not acceptable. And that's where this whole speed, right? So you literally did a third of this entire test in your first battery charge. And yet it somehow is going to take 3 hours worth of charging after that, when on paper the Bolt EV should be adding about 100 miles of range every 30 minutes of charging. Whatever GM did, they need to undo it. They need to fix it. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think. I'm trying to provide as much data as I possibly can. I have all of the information. But yeah, it was a bit disappointing to see the 2022 Chevrolet Bolt EV do worse than the 2020 Bolt EV by a significant margin. And let me know if you'd be interested to see me do this very same test in my 2017 Chevrolet Bolt EV with 150,000 miles on the original battery. And then maybe I'll run it back again after I get that 66 kilowatt hour battery pack and see if this really is a significant problem. I hope this was helpful and informative, and as always, thank you for watching.